Harley Rogers. She's our presenter today, and I'm Charlene Snelling. I'm your moderator. I am, this is my first moderator session. So before we begin, we have a few reminders. We do have a code of ethics that we adhere to for this conference, and that link will be listed in the chat shortly. If you experience any issues related to conduct, please contact us via email at galconferencesupport@googlegroups.com. Please be sure that your microphone is muted during the Q&A, and during the sessions, please use the Q&A as opposed to the chat. This session is being recorded, and you can enable captions by clicking on the Show Captions button at the bottom of the screen. Today's presenter is Harley Rogers. The presentation is entitled Building Capacity for AI. Please join me in welcoming Harley Rogers, who formed the Library Artificial Intelligence Committee at the University of Mississippi Library. So
Yeah.
that's a place. I just moved you across the country. In early 2023.
All right.
Let's go right into Harley. It's on you now.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Thank you so much for that introduction. So I am the head of the science library and an assistant professor here at the University of Mississippi. But I also created my library's AI committee. And so that's what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about what led to us forming kind of our thought process going through the creation of the committee, what we've been able to do as part of the committee, some tips, some tricks, maybe some cautionary tales. But yeah, so I will jump into it. So for a little context about the University of Mississippi, so this is the data that I'm pretty sure this is all accurate from what I could find for the 2024-2025 enrollment period. So there's about 27,000 students that are totally enrolled across the 7 different campuses that the University of Mississippi has. And we have about 2,000 faculty across them all serving our students. So I'm part of the University of Mississippi Libraries. That includes the J.D. Williams Library, which is pictured here, and the Science Library, which I oversee. It's a different building on campus, but we are collectively the UM Libraries, and we have a total of 33 faculty and 23 staff members at this time. So we are maybe on the smaller end of faculty, not faculty, but total employees for our library, but we try to do as much as we can with who we have. And so that is some of the reason why we formed the committee together so that we could kind of collaborate and be able to do more for our students and our faculty and staff without having to commit all of our time to be able to create new services and things like that. So a little bit of the timeline for how we all got started. So in the fall of 2022, we started hearing that our Department of Writing and Rhetoric started to adopt AI use in the classroom. And they were studying how it worked, how students were using it, students' opinions on using it in the classroom. And then at that same time, that was November when ChatGPT all of a sudden blew up and everyone was talking about this new AI, how it's going to change everything. So as this is happening and we're hearing about instances of people using it on campus, the writing department's using it. We individually in the library started having these conversations together. We noticed that we were showing up in the same webinars and trainings as each other, and we're like, what are we supposed to do? How do we address this? We're not going to create a department to handle AI. What are we supposed to do? We don't have a uniform plan yet. And then in February of 2023, our campus created a campus-wide AI task force. And so that met at the beginning, I believe it met monthly, and now it meets every 2 months. And anybody on campus can attend, and it's really a way to keep track of what is happening around campus and regionally, and anything that really people should know about. That's what the task force primarily serves to do. And then in March, we're still having these conversations, but I went to our administration and I worked with them to develop the potential committee's scope for what an AI library committee would look like. And thankfully, it was successful. They thought it was a good idea. I had enough initial people who were interested, and we got it officially formed in May, and we had our first meeting in June. And since then, we have been meeting periodically and have done a lot of individual projects, a lot of group projects, and a lot has changed since June of 2023 as far as the AI landscape. But the committee goals that we agreed upon previously with my administration helped develop this, what they wanted to see out of it. And then we took it with the committee members who were interested and joined, and we confirmed that these were our initial goals. They still are to a degree. So we wanted to survey the AI landscape to develop our role in supporting campus-wide efforts, explore and recommend partnerships with faculty and students to advance AI knowledge, suggest services the libraries can provide in support of AI initiatives, and investigate internal applications of AI to help facilitate library services and functions. So that was the broad scope of what our goals were for the committee when we first were created. And a little bit of the structure, so how it has played out. So it was, from the beginning, always open to both staff and faculty to join. We meet every other week, which seems like maybe too much at a certain point. And even for us, some weeks we're like, oh, I don't really have too much to talk about. And then there are other weeks where 2 weeks is a very long time and a lot can happen in that period. So we keep it at 2 weeks. It's all opt-in. If people have their own individual AI project, AI-related project, they can work on that and they just report it to the group. But then there's also collaborative goals that we have that we work on. We define at the beginning of pretty much every semester, and we work on them together. Uh, we work on them together. And I will talk more specifically about some of these individual research projects and the group projects that we have worked on to do kind of bigger, broad things for the committee. So we currently have 8 members. We've gone up, we've gone down. That's where we're at right now. So far, it is only been formal faculty members or faculty members who've formally joined, but we have had a few staff members participate or drop in on certain meetings. But for right now, we have 8 faculty members, and they represent 6 different departments across the library. So it's a very good spread of us. This next slide shows actually who we are. Now, these are our current committee members. So you can kind of look at some of the different departments that we represent. And this has really helped us do a lot of different things, provide a lot of services because we are all in very different areas. And so that helps us know. We hear from different faculty, we hear from different students. We have our own specialized interests. And so this has really helped us do different things as a committee without all of us having to become mini experts on too many different areas. We can keep Some of the scholar support data services things to be scholar support folks. Our digital initiatives librarian does a lot with transcriptions because that fits her research. We have one of our research and instruction librarians who does the work on tracking hallucinated sources because that comes up a lot in his work. So it's been really, really helpful to have this spread. And this wasn't intentional when we formed, but I would say for other committees joining or for other committees coming together, it's good to have a widespread of people joining you. So our meetings, like I said, we do meet a lot. I admit that. I know some people hate meetings, some people love meetings. We meet a lot, but the group has agreed that it's helpful that even when we don't have huge updates to share, it's good to have a place where we can come and talk about news, updates. Um, what's something that you tried out this week? What did you hear from your students in your classroom? Those are really important discussions and have helped us improve some of our services, update some of the language that we have. There is so much all of the time that's happening in this landscape that we really need all of us to contribute some updates because it's hard to keep track of everything. There are also things that we just have topic debates on or topic discussions on. Something I'll probably mention later on is I realized when I was going to buy books that there was a totally machine generated book being sold by Springer. And it has a human editor in it, but the book is generated using AI, the whole book. And so we brought that in to the committee and we had a discussion about it. And we looked at how it was formed. We realized that it was a part of a whole series. So we were talking about the ethics of it, about should we spend money on this? And then come to find out, we realized that part of this series, we already had a book. So we already had purchased a book that was completely machine generated, has a human editor, but it was already in our collection because it was part of our patron-driven purchasing. So enough people had clicked on it and it was purchased. So that, opened up a very big can of worms for us to just talk about and to have discussions on. So even if we're not making formal changes, we keep up to date on different topics. And then also we use the meetings to share project updates, how things are going, if we need help, if we got something published or a new grant, something along those lines, we are able to share those in the meeting. And then, as I mentioned, we occasionally have guest attendees. Um, I'll talk about at the end some of the internal advisory role that we have taken on for the library, but there have been times where people in other departments, department heads, have come in and joined our meetings because they want to talk about a specific issue or specific topic and they want to run it by us. And so we're able to then talk all as a group and give them hopefully some feedback that is helpful for what they're bringing up. And I have some examples of that for later. So as we were forming, we finally met in June. We had our guiding principles of what we were going to do as a group, but we really had to ask ourselves, where are we going to start? I think this picture on the left of the information really summarizes well what it feels like to start learning about AI. It is just this tidal wave of information, and it's constantly changing. It's constantly updating. And so we were not sure when we first came together what we were going to do. We were all very new in AI. Some of us had a little bit more experience than others, but really we were starting at the beginning. And so we decided that as a committee, we were going to work on first forming a shared base understanding. So we had to figure out the principles of AI, the initial AI literacy ourselves in order to then be able to provide services and then in order to be able to answer questions to our colleagues, to our faculty, to our students. And so that led to a series of projects that I will talk about. But that took probably the bulk of time. And I will say that we're still, we have a foundation now, all of the committee members, but things keep changing. So we keep having to learn to keep our base understanding solid as things keep changing and adjusting. And then the second thing, after we had that initial foundation, we then had the ability to lean into our own specialties. So I mentioned how we are all, a lot of us are in different areas. A lot of us have different interests when it comes to AI. AI is such an umbrella topic. And so after we had that shared understanding together, people were able to branch off and do their own research or do small group research together. And this has allowed us to do a lot. And when people are doing research themselves, they can come to the committee and share how their research, their findings, what early discoveries they're having. And that makes it so that we don't all have to keep inventing the wheel. We don't have to keep searching for other things. There's enough of us doing different things that we can just share it back together, and then it's much easier when we have questions from the community to be able to answer it.
Harley,
Yeah,
before you go on, we have a couple of questions about the
sure.
committee. One, can you talk more about how you approached creating the committee? Is is this a standing committee now, or is it still a task force? Does
Yes,
this
yes.
make a difference at your institution?
It did, it does. And so yeah, that in the early days, so as I mentioned, there were a lot of us that were having we were attending the same workshops, we were attending the same discussions on campus, and we would leave them and we'd walk back to the library together and we would be talking about it. And so I knew that there was an interest, and I knew that at the time, none of us were in agreement on what AI was going to look like, on what was the library's role at that time. And so it was really, we knew that we needed a group. We didn't know what the group needed to do necessarily yet. So I approached my administration and I said, hey, you've heard some of the events that are happening on campus. We all have been, or a lot of us have been attending this, and we're interested. We know that it's impacting libraries, or it's going to impact libraries very soon. We need to get ahead of this because we don't want people knocking on our door being like, hey, can you help with this? And not have an answer. Or maybe even worse, we don't present ourselves as an expert, and then we miss our opportunity to get people in the door to see us, because AI and librarianship, I have a slide, not in this presentation, but in a lot of other presentations I give, where it's a Venn diagram of AI, librarianship, and their overlap. And there's a lot of overlap. And so I explained that to them. They were receptive. They're like, yes, we want to be early adopters, or at least early understanding of AI, so that we could answer questions or we could offer services, whatever they looked like. Initially, they wanted us to be a task force, which would have been a temporary group. And I argued from day one, I don't think this is going away, or I don't think this is going away for a while. And so I really thought that we needed to have a standing committee that would plan to be meeting for several years. And so that is ultimately what we went with. But the initial paperwork that was written up said task force on it, and it wasn't until it went to our managers group, which I explained what we are doing. I explained roughly what some people had expressed in their interests, and they agreed that we could do a formal committee. And so that's how we did that.
The second question we had
Mhm.
um, was, have you thought about inviting non-library members into the committee?
We have not. The reason for that is because we have the AI, the campus task force. So the campus-wide task force has people from all over campus, different departments. Several of us on the library committee also attend it. So we have enough overlap right now that it hasn't seemed like something we should pursue just yet. But that's a really good question. And honestly, I don't think I had particularly thought about it. We just keep the library group library and then invite people in, or people will ask to join and we'll say yes for like a meeting or two meetings. But a lot of us see each other at the campus-wide task force, and then we'll have individual meetings. So that's how we've done that so far.
Thank
Were
you.
there any other, yeah,
No,
were there any other
there are no
questions?
other questions at this point.
Okay, sounds good. So what we decided, and as I just mentioned, in the early days, we really didn't know who our personal understanding or our personal opinions on when should AI be used hadn't fully formed yet. I will say I have a much clearer understanding of my own opinions and thoughts on different types of AI use now than I did 2 years ago. But how we officially started as a group, we decided that we were going to offer services kind of like a buffet. We got a few options for everybody. And you'll see that I'm going to link out to our library LibGuide in a few minutes, but we try to sort of offer options for whoever is coming in, is coming in, they wherever they are on wanting to use AI, not wanting to use AI, there's going to be something for them. So faculty who don't want AI in their classroom at all, we might have a conversation with them about real examples. I have been approached about AI detection tools more times than I can count. And so that's a chance for us to explain to them about it's not really accurate. Nothing right now is very accurate. Also warning them about student integrity. You don't want to upload your student's paper to a third party that says it's going to check for AI. Are you, that you have to talk to the university officially as our policy before you can upload students' work to third parties because of the integrity of their work. So talking to them about that, but we can also work with them on adjusting their work, their classroom work to make it so that AI wouldn't really be helpful for it. So we can do that. And then everything in between, we can also go on the other end of things. There is a supercomputing department. I don't think it's called a department. There's a supercomputing center. That's the word I was looking for on campus. And they do advanced machine learning. I'm talking about like deep learning. And we have stuff for them. And that's kind of getting into some of those niche areas where some of our like scholar support and data services librarians, those are some of the people who would be working with the individuals who'd be interested in working with the supercomputing center and doing much higher level AI use than maybe generative AI or like Grammarly or something along those lines. So we try to have options for wherever somebody is so that they can get something out of our resources. But formally, I know that's kind of abstract, but formally what we say that we offer are support and recommendations. So we have AI tool options that we can provide. We always say, we're not necessarily endorsing a program or a tool, but these are some tools that would work for this particular goal you have. We have policy and guideline examples. So if somebody wants it on their syllabus, we collect stuff that the university itself puts out as recommendations. We can answer some general or some technical questions. And then we also have the other side, which is education and further learning tools. So I'm going to show our LibGuide in a minute. I promise I won't keep teasing it. But we have that, which has lots and lots of resources for all different user groups. And that also links out to several external learning opportunities, other videos, other trainings. And if people have specific questions, we can go into classrooms or go and have one-on-ones to explain AI literacy and how to use certain tools.
We have one other question about the
Yeah.
task force.
Mhm.
How many librarians attend the campus-wide task force, or how many
Yeah.
are on that?
Mhm. So I think usually 4 to 5 of us will attend the meetings. It depends. Some of us can't always attend, but I believe we have one person that just left the thing, so they're one of the campus attendees still, I believe. So yeah, it's about 4 to 5 of us will attend those. It also has a subgroup, which or a subgroup or a spin-off. The provost wanted us to create a recommendation list of how AI is being used and how AI could be used on campus. And we broke it down into 4 options, which was um, research, business practices, so how we're internally using it, um, service, and there's another one, and I can't remember because 'cause I'm not on it. I think it was something to do with teaching. I would imagine it would be student use. And there are 4 committees, and there are one of us in each of the 4 committees. So I'm on the business practices subgroup. So that is how we're tallying how different departments on campus use AI in their workflows. And the idea is that this document will be delivered to the provost to kind of give them ideas. Our university's formal approach, as it's been for about the last year or so, is that faculty are given the faculty are allowed to make decisions on how they would like AI to be used in their classroom themselves. There's no formal, you can't use AI, you have to use AI, you have to use AI this way. They don't have that. It's always up to the faculty member. Um, so, but there are some other initiatives that are coming out now where we still want to prepare our students for the workforce after school. And so there's a lot to it. So yeah, so there's at least 4 to 5 of us that are on the standing committee, or the standing task force, excuse me. And then for the 4 subcommittees, there is one of us in each of those. And those aren't all overlapping.
Okay, thank you. And I just
Yeah,
want to remind everyone to please post your questions in the question and answer section and
we
not the
do.
chat. Thank you.
Okay. So some of the committee projects that we have, these aren't all of them, but these are just some of them. So in the very beginning, when we were developing that base knowledge or base understanding of AI, it was really hard for me to keep track. It was hard for all of us to keep track of all of the different AI tools. And so we created an internal document called the AI Tool Database. This is really just an Excel sheet or a Google form that feeds into an Excel sheet. And so we were analyzing tools for their efficiency, their effectiveness, rating their outputs. So we basically would put the tool's name, we would say briefly what it does, we would say what audience group we thought would most use it. So is this mostly a student tool? Would this mostly be a faculty tool? Any researcher? And then we would answer things like, does it have a cost? Is it a membership? Um, how many free credits do you get if it's that kind of a system? Other details, where do we know anything about the training data? Do we know who owns it? Does the output work most of the time? Is it easy to understand? So those kind of questions, those all fed into an AI tool database so that we would have a list. This is another thing of having a lot of hands to do a lot of different work, so we could keep track of that. And then when people would come for us for questions, we could have a tool database so that I wouldn't have to be like, oh yes, What are every single song generating AI tools that I've heard about in the last 2 years? I could go and look at the database. Um, and then we have the AI LibGuide that we've created. We've spent so much time on this. This has definitely been our biggest project because we wanted it to have something for everybody. And I think we've done a good job at doing that. So we've worked really hard on it and we keep having updates for it. So I would say probably every 2 months or so, there's something new that we want to put on there, and we make some changes. And we've added more information on that as things come out. And I will show that in the next slide. But when I share out my slides, if you want to click on this link here, this is a way to get there. We also hosted a practical AI symposium. This was an internal training for library employees. So each of us, we rented out a classroom, or we not rented out a classroom. We used one of our classrooms in the library, and we had about an hour-long workshop back to back until a little bit after noon. I think it was a little after lunchtime. And we just showed practical AI tools that librarians and library employees could use in their day-to-day work or in their personal lives. So we had Canva, I think, Canva's AI, and um, we compared the premium and the free version of ChatGPT at the time. But this is all linked in eGrove. We have recordings of most of the sessions. So eGrove is our online institutional repository, but it's all linked right here if anyone's interested in that. So that's something we provided. We're hoping to do another one again in the future. And then we also have just done a series of workshops. We've done classroom instruction. And so it's not formally a project, but we work together a lot as a committee to make sure that we have slides that we can all use or resources that we can use. We don't have to keep recreating the wheel there. So those are just some of the really big projects that we've done. This is a screenshot of the LibGuide that I've been mentioning. This is also, if you want to use the QR code, this will bring you right to the website itself. But we have introduction, we have language introduction, we have AI resources for faculty, for students. We have a section about AI literacy that we've developed. So how can you build AI literacy for yourself, for your students? We talk about citing, we talk about prompt engineering. We have an information about the AI committee. And our most recent addition that we have added on here is the AI-powered databases. So something that came up kind of suddenly is that we all of a sudden started getting AI integrated tools on our library websites or our library databases. So we use OneSearch, and we have now the Summons AI Research Assistant. Um, ProQuest is another one that has a AI assistant on it. And we've had several others where they haven't turned them on yet. The publisher hasn't turned on the tool yet, but they keep telling us, "Hey, we have a free one. Do you want us to turn it on?" Or we also have a few that are for the low, low price of blank $1,000. You can have this new AI assistant. And so as these roll out, we are trying to keep track of them and at least have some language on our guide to show people how to use it, especially because a lot of the tools don't work very well. And so we want to make sure that it's clear that we're not endorsing these programs or these tools. We're endorsing, the database, we provide the database, but we don't necessarily endorse the tool. And we want to give guidance on how best to use the tool if you're going to use it, so that people aren't all of a sudden using their preferred database and all of a sudden they're trying to use this AI tool and it's not working for them. So we want to offer that to them. And I'm happy at the end, if there's any more questions about the LibGuide, we can go back and talk about that some more. So we also have had an advisory role for our library. As I mentioned, we've had a lot of different conversations that have popped up on different topics. People have stopped in to our meetings. So these are some of the topics that have caused that, or things that have come to us as a committee that we've had to talk about, and we've tried to give our thoughts on it. So one of the top one we have here is the AI restrictions appearing in publishing agreements. So the head of our uh, continuing resources and acquisitions, I had to remember the name. They started seeing language in our agreements for databases about you can't use AI, but the language was vague. The language was restrictive. And so she came to us and wanted to show us some examples, tell us some conversations that were being discussed over listservs and things like that, see what other universities were seeing in their agreements, and ask us, is there some kind of language that she should be looking out for that we don't want to agree to? Because we were looking at it and we were really worried that some of the language seemed to limit what researchers could do. It was so vague that it could be argued that they couldn't do their data analysis. In the way that they've been doing for several years. So she wanted to make sure that we weren't accidentally making an agreement on this. And then also, we needed to be aware so that we could talk to our faculty and the other librarians who work directly with faculty to make sure that everybody knew what could and could not be done with certain publishers because of the agreements. Similar note, we've had some people come in with concerns about their data and their rights. In the news, there were talks about, Wiley selling author data to create an AI model. I think Taylor and Francis was the other one that we talked about. So there was concerns about that. So we're talking as a group to at least all be aware of it. So if we have these conversations, we at least have a better understanding than, "Oh, I've heard of that," or "I didn't hear about that at all." I already mentioned the AI-generated book that appeared in our catalog, so that was something that we talked about. Our collection strategist librarian is also on the AI committee, but he definitely had some thoughts about it. And then we're thinking about, well, should we re-look at our policies on collection development? Do we need to have a statement about AI? Do we collect AI content? Do we not? Do we always know if it's going to be AI content or not? We don't know. So at least it created the conversation, and that's an ongoing one that we're currently having. I also mentioned the AI databases, but we've also done a few trialing AI programs. We have a trial actually starting today for a new AI program. I believe it's on Nexus Lexis. They have some AI feature, and so our library is doing a 1-week trial of that. So it's a closed trial, so all of the AI committee members are going to be on it for the next week, so we'll be able to give our continuing resources department some feedback on if we think it's good or if it's not. And also mentioned adding kind of the library perspective at the campus-wide task force. So sometimes it's helpful to, we have unique thoughts or resources that we can provide. So we tried to do that at the campus task force. One that comes to mind is someone who was running the meeting was basically describing AI that was doing almost everything a citation manager could, but not quite all the way. And so we're like, have you heard of a citation manager? And anywho, it had a side conversation, and it was quite helpful, they said, for their research. So that's just some of the advisory role stuff that we have. And thinking about the time, I'm going to kind of go through these quickly. So these are just a few examples of the quote unquote individual projects that some of the committee members have done. So we have the transcribing archival content using automatic speech recognition tools. So think Whisper, Rev AI, Otter is another one. So these are 2 members on the committee, and they have been working on this for a few years now. And they have been testing which, there's 4 different tools, those 3 that I just mentioned, and I think Panopto is the other one. And they're comparing it on several different criteria about how fast it is, how accurate it is, how long it takes to make adjustments. They also specifically want to test it on the accuracy of picking up Southern accents, because a lot of our archival content has very deep accents down here. We have like the Delta accent, and so in recordings that are 100 years old that also have strong accents, it can be really hard to transcribe these tools. So that is the reason for that project. There also has been research on evidence-based acquisition for library collections, so looking at machine learning models to predict what resources are going to be interested, or people will be interested in, to see if we can be more effective in our resource allocation for buying materials. We've also had a few publications that these are 2 books that will be forthcoming in an ACRL book called AI Cookbook. But they're not fully out yet, so that's why they don't have the full citation. But we've had also some other articles that have come out. Another one has been on this topic. Let me move my thing over here. So this has been investigating hallucinated citations in student writing. And so there have been examples that have been pulled from the library's help chat, from the Department of Writing and Rhetoric has generated citations that have been hallucinated, and the librarian who has been working on this project has analyzed every part of the citation to see where is the data usually most incorrect or most accurate. And so he's looking at, sometimes I think his most recent finding is that parts of it are almost always correct. It's very, very rare that the entire citation is incorrect. Usually the author will be real, but then the title and the journal will be wrong. Or the title will be real, but the publication doesn't exist. Something like that. That's what he's found most often in these cases where it is not a real citation. So that's just one of the projects. Here's a couple others. I won't go through all of these, but these are just a few more samples
You
of
do
some
have
other
time.
projects.
You,
We do have time.
yes,
Okay.
we have about 17 minutes.
Okay. I know I also want to leave time for questions too.
Right.
But yeah, so there has been research. This is a really, really interesting one, global scale data-driven analysis of fact checking. So one of our members has been working, this is some of his research from when he was at Penn State, but looking at global newspapers and looking at the comparison of, it's very hard to explain other people's research. So looking at like fact checkers and see how certain, how the fact checking on certain articles works across the world. I recommend looking this one up. It is published. I'm doing a terrible job at explaining it, but it's a very, very huge project, and it's very interesting and ongoing, that work there. Also want to just get through this one. So I want to talk a little bit more about the connections. So this is also something that I would really recommend doing, because it's been so helpful for us, is
I'm
um, yeah,
Harley, I'm sorry. Now I
no, you're
see we
good.
only have a minute left. I'm so
Okay, no, I was
sorry.
gonna say, I thought we had some more. It's all
Okay.
good. So, so making some connections. So we have a group on campus called Academic Innovations Group. They are one of the ones that leads the campus AI task force, but we've worked closely with them. I asked if our committee could present at one of the task force meetings in the early, after we had launched our LibGuide, and we showed it to them, and they were super receptive. They let us join. We presented, and they also found our LibGuide so helpful that they cross-posted onto their website. So now our LibGuide lives in a few different places, and they have invited us multiple times at this point to do presentations. This is me presenting after my shoulder surgery, but I'm presenting at one of their AI institutes for teachers that they host periodically. And so we were talking about what the committee does, services that we can offer. We've worked with other departments on campus. A lot of different campuses do different things with AI. So that has been really helpful. And then also things like this, so conferences, working with other AI committees or other libraries that are looking at different AI projects has been really helpful to see what other people do and see what we can do. And the less that we have to recreate the wheel, the more helpful and time we'll have to do other things. So I really recommend partnering with who you can to kind of share responsibilities because there's so much to do. And this is a picture of us at one of the the campus task force meetings. So I think in this one where there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 of us had attended that day, but not all of us can always do it. So I'm happy to answer questions now. And also, if anybody wants to reach out to all of us, you can go to lib-ai@olemiss.edu, or you can reach out directly to me. I'm at hrogers@olemiss.edu.
There
So,
was one last question. Um,
yeah,
the Would you be willing to share the title of that AI generated book? My
yeah,
question was, how did you know that it was, this is my personal
yeah.
question, how did
hmm
you know that it was AI generated?
Because it was thankfully in the title. Um,
Ah,
mhm. I was scrolling through Gobi as one does, looking for books to buy in my areas, and it said, oh, and I can't remember the exact. It was something like, this isn't the actual title, but it was like microbiology, a machine-generated overview. And I kind of looked at it and I stopped for a second. I was like, a machine-generated overview. This book is not cheap. And so I clicked on it and I was like, surely I'm not reading this correctly. And I clicked on it and sure enough, it is transparent. At least it says, it's uses AI. It's a machine generated overview. Thankfully, the first chapter is freely available. And so I downloaded it, I looked at it, and it does have a kind of a methods. It's not formally a method. It's a book. It's not a method section, but it explains their process kind of. And it basically says that the AI goes through and does an analysis of all of the research on this particular topic, and it generates out this book. And it says that the editor, the sole editor, then goes through and does not make changes to the content, but makes edits to the book. We had lots of conversations about it. But it is a Springer series, and I believe from our most recent meeting, somebody brought up that it has gone back. Other books in this series have gone back to, I think, 2019. So they've been publishing this for a while, which was very, very interesting to see it. And again, the book wasn't cheap. So it was very interesting. It was also a very long book. If I remember correctly, I think it was like 700, 800 pages. It was a very long
mhm.
book, which my experience with AI is that the longer maybe the content it is, it's not always as effective. It also did not explain who the person was prompting the AI. So it wasn't very transparent on that. It just lists the sole editor and it says that they do stuff after the fact, but it doesn't talk about
The
you know, the
production,
yeah. So there was no conversation on like
the
that.
prompts.
Right, exactly. And so maybe if I bought the book, maybe there would be more in it. I don't know. I have not had a chance to go look at our purchased copy, which was a different book, but still a book in that same series. but that is my intention, to go and look at that before our meeting later this week. So it
I'm
is
I'm going
interesting.
to check to see if there are any more questions in the chat
Mm.
or elsewhere. I don't see any. If anyone has a question, please
Yeah, please do.
use the question and answer. This session has been recorded and will be available to everyone after the session, after the conference. I want to thank Harley for her wonderful presentation and everyone who's attended. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.